deeper into the volcano we go. Definitely hoping I won't feel the need to pull back from the dungeon for the sake of healing and regaining items for our next dive. I want this done in a single smooth run. Just gonna quick check online how many floors are in this dungeon. Okay. Apparently we got 5 floors just like the previous dungeon, and we're on floor number 4. We've gotten through the majority of it. If there's one thing I'm going to appreciate in the later Final Fantasies, it's the fact that they give you some save points partway through various dungeons to let us take a breather while going in. The dungeons in the first game require you to go all the way through in either a single sitting or use an emulator save state function to let yourself get interrupted partway through. Look, I get it, this is the first time any game tried to pull anything like this off. I'm not asking for the first ever JRPG to get everything right the first time. It's just interesting to think about the things that they didn't quite think of in their first outing. It's also interesting for me to note that Pokemon is similar in that it doesn't have save points within a given dungeon. On the one hand, it's a lot easier to end up with your Pokemon exhausted than the characters in Final Fantasy I, because absolutely every attack in a Pokemon game has limited charges, not just magic. You also do not have anything even remotely similar to a white mage to help keep your team in slightly better condition as you grind your way through a given bit of road or cave. On the other hand, the dungeons in Pokemon are a hell of a lot less extensive than Final Fantasy for the most part. And in Final Fantasy, it's a bit more grueling, since every fight assumes that you have a full party of 4, whereas in Pokemon, the fights are balanced, assuming you're going to be dealing with the enemy one at a time with just one of your team at a time. All in all, it kind of feels like it evens out, though I'm sure that Tyson wouldn't mind if the enemies we fought were tailored for one-on-one encounters instead of group fights like this. Okay, why is it that all the other hits they sent to Purami were in the single digits, but that one caused 24 in damage? I was also kind of expecting Wesker's spell to come out first, and for a few more hits to be sent at Tyson there. It's really hard to feel like things are all that tactical here when randomness is the name of the game. Well, that's certainly a good number of chests, but nowhere near as many as we saw back on the second floor. Darn. Probably should have given Purami that ice sword before the next random encounter started. It's not that big of an issue, but still, benefits of hindsight and all that. Yeah, definitely a good upgrade even if we weren't fighting against a bunch of fire monsters in here, though I'm sure we might run into some trouble if some later monsters are ice-based, perhaps in the water dungeon? It's not like there are any explicit water spells, so I assume that ice is gonna be their thing. Well, looks like Morn can take another high potion for the moment. No one else is missing quite enough health for that, Yeah, definitely says something that I'm more worried about just walking to the next staircase than I am of actually fighting the enemies between us and the boss right now. Okay, why did I just change my mind here? It's not like I'm looking at the map that I was reading at the time I was recording the game. Yeah, looks like I already grabbed that item. Guess I'm losing my mind or something. Though, given the layout of the place, the terrain is pretty easy to confuse where you are, even if you do have a map, because some little sections just look way too similar to one another. Especially compared to the layout of the floors we've gone through before now, in every other dungeon in this game so far. Really? Only 10? Not that we're desperate for cash considering the sheer number of fights we've gone through out here, but still, that seems like such a small reward, considering how annoying it is to get to the chests in this dungeon. $155 in the other chest. We earned more than both chests in this room combined in a single random fight. What is even the rationale behind putting so little money into the treasure chests in here? Is it a subtle taunt towards the people who would be willing to try to open absolutely every item box in a dungeon before moving on? Would anyone really have the temptation to taunt players for that kind of instinct in a game this old? I probably didn't need to bother using that bit of ice magic there, especially with how hard Boromir and Tyson are hitting these guys right now. Another single high potion for the moment. Tyson is close to being able to use one right now, but I'd rather not use it for simply being close. Especially when we've got so few left and we don't know how much more damage we're gonna have to take before we actually get to the boss. Well, at least this confirms that the multi-hit spells do more damage on a single target than a single target spell. I suppose that's good to know. One already opened chest, two still full ones. Really have no clue why the game decides to sometimes have chests open because you opened a completely different chest in the dungeon. It's certainly not something you see in other Final Fantasies or in other role-player games in general, as far as I know. Definitely pretty sure we're gonna run out of potions before we get to the boss. Bloody hell, I'm kind of impressed I managed to prevent anyone from being knocked unconscious considering how questionable the timing of my healing has been. definitely gonna need to use more eye potions now. And we don't have enough for all that I want to do. Guess it's about time for Morn to actually start using his MP there. I just feel like we're too far down to just pull back to the town for all the resources we want to replenish this far in. Three regular potions left, the exact amount of health we would get from a single high potion. I know I've got Next Potion, which heals all health, along with some elixirs that also replenish MP, but those feel like late game, if ever, sort of items. Seriously, the regular hydras outside the volcano somehow felt more intimidating to me than the fire hydras. Is that because they were a new enemy type out there? Or is it because I was a lower level and hit less hard than I have been in here? Either way, it just feels a bit strange to me. Just one regular potion left, and I severely doubt we're going to have it when we get to the final floor. Just how many random encounters have we gone through in this dungeon? Dear God, the encounter rate is driving me crazy here. Granted, there's no way it's gonna be worse later in the game. It's just gonna stay at the same rate of enemy fights for the entire game. Still, this is why I've been fast-forwarding in the overworld. And I'm very tempted to fast-forward in the dungeons themselves, simply because of just how many times we end up in a fight around here. But I don't want to make that my standard thing, considering the sheer number of role-player games I hope to eventually get to in the future. Some are turn-based, some strategy, some real-time, and I don't really have them in any given order. Hell, I'm not even sure if I'm gonna do the Final Fantasy games in any kind of order. I'm pretty sure that my next Final Fantasy will be 4, but I have no clue if I'm gonna do the 3D remake after that, or 5, and I have no clue if I'm ever gonna do any version of 3 at some point, or if I'll do any games in a different series before I'm done with my Final Fantasy games. Okay, while this is claimed to be the final floor, the layout kind of gives me the impression there might be a floor after this. Maybe I've lost it a bit. We've got 8 different directions we could go from the staircase, and only one leads to the boss. Four ogres feel like they should be something to be worried about, but I just can't find it in me to give a damn. Hell, how many ogres have we slaughtered over the course of the game so far? I'm pretty sure it's more than the number of goblins, since we stopped seeing goblins a few clips ago, but ogres, yeah, they're still showing up. All that for a chest that was already opened. God, please don't tell me we're gonna see that for the rest of this floor. Please tell me we have some more items to grab before we get to the boss. Granted, we don't actually need them, but there's a lot of ground here. And I'm gonna feel very annoyed if the only route I was supposed to take was directly to the boss herself. Tyson is definitely hitting a lot harder than Boromir, despite the fact that we've got a weapon built specifically to dominate in this dungeon. Though I suppose the Minotaurs aren't quite fire creatures, so maybe they just don't have that weakness. Really? Only 40 health per cure? Just a little less than an over-the-counter potion? I'm sure that's going to improve as we keep leveling up, but still, Morn is level 26 right now. I was expecting more than 50 health per cure cast. Anyway, another already opened chest, not exactly encouraging, but then there's literally nothing stopping me from just going straight to the boss herself here. This is her floor. And while we're gaining more money and experience with everyone we're fighting before getting to her, the fact of the matter is we don't have all that many resources left after the 2-clip-long crawl to get to her. And I'm starting to wonder if I maybe bit off more than I can chew by simply not knowing when to pull back for resources when it was a viable option. And remember, this is the PSP version of the game, not the Pixel Remaster. The Pixel Remaster has moments where the game autosaves, so you won't lose all your progress, but the PSP version is closer to the original in that regard. If we get our asses kicked, we have to load all the way back to the last time we manually saved, and that was a long ways back. Frustrating as hell when it happens, but to be fair, it helps add some tension when you're doing these dungeon dives that the Pixel Remasters can't really pull off. The lack of a safety net can really make you feel pretty invested in what's going on. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned or something. It's funny how there are some genres of games where I like having checkpoints, and other genres where having checkpoints just wouldn't feel right to me. Right. Guess we're taking on the boss now, since I'm pretty sure none of the other chests on this floor are gonna have anything for us either. Oh, I'm sorry, lady. I'm pretty sure I'll forget your name as soon as we're done with you. I know it's not terribly polite considering you're a major boss, but it's not like this story has a plot or that you had any moments to showcase your character. You're just a monster with more gravitas to us. Lady, we had to walk through a volcano just to get to you. I don't think you're capable of making things any hotter than that. Anyway, she's a 6-armed snake lady and certainly a more striking visual appearance than the Lich. All but one sword seems to be Saracen in appearance, from what I can tell. No clue about the one with multiple teeth on her middle left hand, though. Kind of a shame we don't get to see her in motion, but even if this game had an animation budget, I'm sure a hostile looking like that would be very tough to animate in a way that wouldn't look janky as hell. Right, so she's got a multi-hit fire spell there. Not really surprising, but I certainly consider it annoying. I don't think we have any multi-hit healing abilities, but I could be wrong. Apparently I was wrong. We do have some multi-healing things. I'm not going to be using a very strong one at the moment. Tyson is looking pretty charred, though. I might need to use something a bit heavier on him. Definitely not doing a lot of damage per hit here, but then it's not like I'm surprised that this was going to be a war of attrition. It's part of why I was so conservative with Morn's MP on the way down here. We'll see just who has more staying power in this fight. Son of a bitch! Even if Wesker was at full health, that would have taken him out! Don't tell me that she's gonna do the same thing to Morn! I'm pretty sure Morn has the same amount of armor as Wesker. Oh dear, even a breeze could take Wesker back down. Why was I expecting more HP restored from that life spell? Oh, that was so close to Tyson being knocked out. Well, Merilith certainly proved that she's made of sterner stuff than the Lich was. Still, this makes 2 crystals restored. We just have 2 more to go. Huh. Why was I expecting at least one of the team to level up after taking that bitch down? Well, Earth and Fire are nice and colorful again. I'm sure the next on our list is gonna be Water. Another bonus dungeon I'm gonna go out of my way to avoid. The BSP-only bonus dungeons just really aren't worth the trouble. As a side note, should I bother asking why a random elf is just hanging out inside of a lava-filled room? I don't think that's a very relaxing place to be. I'm pretty sure that fire across the planet still had power even before we took that snake lady down. Anyway, let's use the convenient teleport pad out of here. I am in no mood to go through all 5 floors backwards, especially since we still have to travel through a maze just to get back to town. We should have enough MP to make it back to town without having to use a tent along the way, though at least we're able to do so now. I kind of wish we could open up a tent or cottage while inside of a dungeon in this game. But no, you can only do that when you're able to save your game. And as I said before, there's no way to save your game while inside of a dungeon in the original Final Fantasy. It really helps to make those dungeons feel like such a pain in the ass to get through. But it can also lead to some bits of unintentional hilarity. Like, you are capable of setting up a tent on your canoe as you're rowing to the next bit of land. Yeesh. Yeah, really getting the feeling that level 1 spells for the Black Mage just aren't going to cut it even when they're super effective. Certainly a shame for Wesker considering how I tend to handle the various enemies, and how much I very much prefer not to use magic points in a way that might come across as overkill. Hell, that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I'm a little iffy about magic in general in any kind of role-player game, Western or Japanese in design. Magic really does cater to people who love to do massive amounts of overkill as they just wipe out everything in their path. Whereas I prefer to just do as much damage as I absolutely need to in order to get the job done so we have more resources for the next bit of fighting after that. And there's the tower again. Why do I doubt that we're gonna get any fresh dialogue here even after beating the local boss? I could probably buy 99 of both potions and high potions. We have more than enough money for it, but hey, 90 of them is probably good enough for whatever we're gonna have to get through next. and the 42 ethers are another good way to make sure that we won't have to worry about running out of supplies or magic next time we head into the monster-infested depths. Okay, so we can't manually sort things, but we can at least prompt the game to get things looking a little nicer in our bag. I can kind of appreciate that, but I do not appreciate that there's a spell that our white mage will never actually be able to learn. At least unless Morn upgrades to a white wizard. As a side note, why is it that my brain considers the word mage to be gender neutral, but wizard is most definitely male? Just one of those little things that doesn't really matter, but kind of bugs me. Right, just need to rest for a bit, then we're off to the next bit of adventure around here.